Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Sports Blitz. It's episode number, can't believe this, 58. 58. Unbelievable.
Wow.
I don't know what to say. I just don't know what to say. I'm Doug. We have Robbie here. Robbie, how you doing tonight?
Doing great, Doug. Doing great. Another exciting episode of the Sports Blitz. Can't wait. By the way, just wanted to give a quick shout out to my buddy Mike Riley for joining us last week. Had an awesome time having him on. Was a great guest. So just a big time shout out to him for coming through and joining us last week. We had a lot of fun. But yeah, hope everybody's doing well out there, wherever you may be listening or watching us from this evening. And excited for episode 58. Let's get rolling.
Yeah, let's get it going. I also want to say to Mike Riley, thank you so much for coming on. It was awesome. We had a fun time last week.
Yeah.
And he just rolled with the punches. We had a few things going on there, and it was pretty good. And hey, listen, if you haven't seen that episode, please check it out. YouTube, SoundCloud, Facebook, you name it. We're almost on it. So yeah, definitely check out that episode because it was really fun, and we talked about a lot of things and got a lot of great stories. So Mike, thank you so much for coming on. But we're gonna go right in there, Robbie.
Doug, you did forget one thing though. If you are under a cave, or if you're in a cave or under a rock this evening, welcome back. You might want to, after you're done listening or watching, you might want to go back into that cave or under that rock. But glad to have you with us for your short time outside.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, definitely. Anybody, we love our listeners, and we love to get
viewers
feedback.
too. We love our viewers too.
Love the viewers, and we love to get feedback on episodes and that kind of thing. So if you've never heard the Sports Blitz before, it's basically Robbie and I. We're talking about sports, and we're just kind of throwing things out there.
Who else would be here?
Can I think about that for a few minutes and get back to you?
Sure, go for it.
Not really sure. So it's basically just us just throwing some ghosts, right? Throwing some sports out there to you, and if you hear us say words, it's not because we're crazy like ghosts. Part of our show is the fact that we kind of chat back and forth with each other, and sometimes we say some words and phrases and different things to make us laugh. Hopefully it makes you laugh too. Probably not, but that's okay. But that's part of our show. So listen, we're going to jump right in. We're going to start right up front, and we're going to go right into the NFL because there's a lot to talk about with the NFL right now. The first thing I want to talk about is basically at the beginning of the week. I think it was either Sunday or Monday. I think it was Monday. It was Monday, I think, something like that. I don't know. It was basically we talked about it last week a little bit, but there were two positive tests. Thankfully, this morning. So I just want to put it out there to the people. Everybody's getting nervous. This morning, 0 positive tests, but at the beginning of the week, we had a little bit of a different story. So 2 positive tests. One was Cam Newton, which was pretty much more or less last week.
Yeah.
And then we had our best defensive player, Robbie. Who would that be?
Good old Stephon Gilmore, which I believe it must have been Tuesday at the earliest because he played Monday night in the Kansas City game. So I believe it was Tuesday morning or maybe yesterday morning. It was either Tuesday or yesterday.
I think it was Tuesday. It was Tuesday.
That came out.
It was definitely Tuesday.
He had tested positive. So
right. So Robbie, I want to just jump right in and say, and just kind of ask you and try to figure out because we have some other things that are COVID related that we'd like to talk about with the NFL. Because a lot of stuff has come out the last few days.
A lot COVID
I know related, a lot of COVID related, but I just want to talk Pats right now per se.
Yeah, right.
Pats per se. So wanted to know about what your thoughts are on just the Patriots, not the other stuff, just the Patriots testing positive. Two very important guys testing positive. And what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, my first thought obviously is, as I feel for them, I feel for Cam, and I feel for Gilmore. Obviously, we hope that, they're able to get through this and get past this as quickly as possible and get better. I mean, it sounds like they're both asymptomatic, which is always a good thing, but definitely, a lot of things sort of bigger than football at work here, and like I said, just get past it. Exactly, gotta get past it. So definitely feeling for them. My second thought was definitely, especially when Cam came out. I mean, there was a lot of questions of like, oh, like, are the Patriots going to be able to play against Kansas City, and what's this going to mean? Blah blah blah. Now they did play on Monday night, as we just talked about. They lost, and we might get into sort of the backup quarterbacks that did see the field in that Kansas City game, and especially going forward, what that means for the offense, depending on how long Cam ends up missing. But they got through the Kansas City game, and obviously, had all other negative tests, sort of leading into that Kansas City game. And then to hear the Stephon Gilmore news, it was like, again, it was kind of like a punch in the gut. It was like, uh-oh, like, is this going to mean a massive, like, outbreak on the team? Like, what is this going to mean? We're sort of all sitting here, I think even still a little bit on pins and needles, wondering, like, what does this mean for this week? What does this mean for...
Sorry, water break. Go ahead. It's a water girl.
No worries.
And I forgot my water, so go ahead. I didn't mean to stop your...
No, you're good. I think Stephon Gilmore's positive test really has sort of put Patriots fans on pins and needles for sort of the next ball to drop. Who's next, and again, just looking schedule-wise, what's going to happen with the Denver game, because obviously, the Pats had to close their facility and work from home the last couple of days. Now, I did basically the latest report is that they are going to move the game up, back a day to Monday. The Pats Broncos game taking place at July. So again, whether or not that holds remains to be seen. But I mean, right now it seems like the outbreak, if all things sort of stay the way they are, is somewhat contained, in the sense that it's only been really those two players, but at the same time, it's definitely nerve-wracking. Just because you want the players to stay healthy, just because they're human beings, and you don't want anything bad to happen to them, but also you obviously it's we've enjoyed having the Patriots be back, and we want to keep it that way. I know we're going to sort of talk about the NFL's overall struggles here coming up, but just a lot of sort of nerves and sort of anxiety on Patriots fans' parts. I'm sure myself and Doug and everybody else out there in Patriots Nation, but right now, again, fingers crossed, knock on wood, it seems like right now it's just those two, and everybody else has pretty much come out unscathed, at least up till this point.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. Well, what happened is that they actually, I don't know why they did this today, Thursday. They should have done this a few days ago. But they did send a NFL person to go and check out make sure that the Patriots were actually doing their protocols. And it turns out that their physician on this at a little press conference and talked about their protocols. It turns out that the NFL couldn't find anything because the Patriots are actually doing the protocols. They have cameras. They have looks like a wristwatch, but it's actually a device that tells whoever where they are. And it turns out that by looking at the cameras, talking to the people, everybody was wearing their masks, including Cam Newton, who was wearing his mask. Now, it turns out that Stephon Gilmore had dinner with Cam Newton.
Right.
I think it was about a week ago, I believe. I think it was that Friday.
Yeah.
Anyway, they went out to dinner together. And they think that's maybe where Stephon Gilmore got it. They don't know for sure, but they're thinking that, but they're following protocols.
It's interesting because, a lot of the other offensive guys and quarterbacks, are sort of in the same space as Cam Newton. Yet, as of right now, none of them have tested positive. So again, it kind of goes to show you, just the intrigue of this virus, how it impacts people differently, but also how some people who are exposed or potentially exposed somehow manage to dodge it, and other people are not so lucky. So just another sort
I'm not sure if it's a dodging as opposed to being asymptomatic, not having any symptoms at all, and not really
but you're still going to test positive if you're asymptomatic.
Yeah, you still test. You could still. Yeah, of course you can. Yeah, of course you can. And you only become asymptomatic when you test positive.
Right.
So that's where it comes from. But I think what I'm saying is that you either have it or you don't have it. I don't think that, and it depends on the person, or it depends on the gestation period. Typically, it's 5 to 6 days from what I'm hearing. And again, that's just what I'm hearing. And it just depends on kind of what the exposure is and when that is and stuff like that. And that's doctor stuff, and we're not going to get into that at all. But
we are not medical professionals here on the Sports Blitz.
No, we play them on TV, but we're not real medical professionals. But I think what it comes down to is I like the fact that I don't like the fact that the NFL's investigating. That's the first thing, because I don't think they like the Patriots anyway, but they went in and they were like, well, we can't find anything. I wonder why, because we're actually, doing the protocols, doing what we're supposed to be doing. And that's why our testing, and this proves it, Robbie, and we're going to get into this in a few minutes. There's another team, and I'm not going to mention the team yet because we're going to get into it in a few minutes. But there's another team that keeps their guys, 2 more guys tested positive again today. I'm not going to tell you the total yet, how many guys, but we're going to talk about a team that was not following protocols, obviously. But we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But what do you think the impact, what do you think the impact was on the Patriots team? Didn't have their quarterback. And we had 2 different quarterbacks playing, Hoyer and Stidham. Stidham. And what did you think about the game, and how did you react to the fact that Cam Newton was not going to be able to play?
It's interesting because once I saw that Cam was out, I was like, oh boy. That was basically my reaction, was, oh boy, when I came to the game against Kansas City. I didn't see how we could pull it out or have a chance to pull it out, let's be completely honest with you, against a team like the Chiefs without Cam Newton at quarterback. That being said, I actually was somewhat pleasantly surprised as how the Pats were. Again, I know, things sort of got away from them a little bit towards the end of the game, but for the majority of that game, the Pats were kind of holding their own a little bit. I mean, it was 13-10 into the fourth quarter, and obviously, Hoyer. I mean, the thing people gloss over is the fact that the Pats got down multiple times into the red zone. Unfortunately, Hoyer made some mistakes. There's no question, and had a turnover too, that ended up killing those drives. Killing those drives. It was very, very frustrating. I will say I was very impressed with Stidham. Sort of coming in. I was kind of surprised because you sort of look at look at what's been going on with Stidham and the fact that they signed Cam when everybody thought Stidham was going to be the guy, and then Stidham basically has been sort of a healthy scratch from the majority of the games so far this season. Everybody's sort of been like, wow, Stidham just must not really be ready at all, and just what does that say about Stidham and all of that. But honestly, he made a relatively good accounting for himself, especially that first drive where he comes in, takes them down, and they get their lone touchdown of the night. So I was pleasantly surprised by his performance. And Doug just typed this in the chat. The defense really was what kept them in that game for sure. The defense, came ready to play and really did a good job of stopping the run and getting pressure on Mahomes and forcing some mistakes and making plays. Obviously, like I said, they had one, sort of after the Pats made it 13-10, the Chiefs kind of were able to get a good drive going and put it in the end zone. And they had a pick six, I know, on a ball that wasn't necessarily Stidham's fault. It was, right off the fingertips there of Edelman into the defender's hands, which was a tough break. But I think, obviously it's interesting. Again, you don't like to, sort of go to the what if, so to speak. But since we're a sports fan podcast, we'll go to the what if. If Cam Newton had been, by the way, just quick breaking news here on the Sports Blitz.
Oh, we need a sounder.
Per ESPN, this is
breaking
official.
news.
This is official. The Broncos and Patriots will play Monday at 5:05 p.m. at Gillette Stadium on ESPN. So it's some good old-fashioned Columbus Day Eve football for us to watch. And actually, the Bills-Titans game is going to be Tuesday at 7. We'll get into that more coming up here. But, I like it. We hate to play sort of the what-if game, but honestly, if Cam was the quarterback for that game, I think it would have obviously been a lot closer. I think the Patriots could have had a much more legitimate shot at actually winning that ball game, and that's stunning for me to say. Even if you were just heading into that game with Cam at quarterback, just as we were sort of building it up until Saturday when obviously the news broke. People, even with Cam at quarterback, didn't really give the Patriots a shot. But just watching that game and watching what transpired with, again, our second and third string quarterbacks, carrying the load for us, Cam could have pulled it out. Obviously, again, it's sort of playing the what if game, but it was better than I expected, to be honest with you. And I think that the score doesn't necessarily reflect how close that game was right up until basically the final quarter of it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that too, Bobby. I think they did a phenomenal job and actually stayed in that game for probably about 3.5 quarters against the defending champs, and I was actually pleasantly surprised and kind of we're talking about moral victories and stuff like that, and I'm not sure how much I believe in moral victories, but if you could take a really bad situation of a starting quarterback and not being able to, not Belichick's vocabulary, right? Not at all.
Yeah.
You take a starting quarterback, take him out of that game, and an important game too, not just an AFC game, but an important game to find out kind of where you're really at.
Big test. Big.
Yeah, a huge test, and it would have been an even better test with Cam in. But think you're right about that. I think that having Cam in, he would not have made the mistakes that Hoyer made.
No.
It's just not something he would do. And there were two biggies for
but also given his running ability, you definitely had more. You would have had more options sort of as you got into the red zone in terms of play call.
Definitely, and Hoyer can't run. So why he was trying to run and didn't.
Well, I was about to say he did take off for one first down run in that game, but
I know, but that's not exactly what we wanted.
It was not the same as having Cam out there, where you're just such a constant threat.
Right.
On the ground as well as in the
exactly.
air,
but I was really, Robbie, I'll tell you, I was really pleasantly surprised. This team is really kind of pumping me up a little bit. I pump you up. I pick things up and I put them down. So absolutely. I was like, whoa, this is and if you think about it, the Chiefs have been averaging 16 to 20 points at the half with everybody, with every team that they've played so far.
And it was what?
And
it was
to keep them
6-3 a half. It was like 6-3 at the half. Yeah.
I mean, that's got to show you something there.
I mean,
that's got to show you that our defense is just really, really good.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things, and I wanted to kind of ask you. You had this breaking news a few minutes ago about the NFL moving games. What's your thought on the NFL moving games?
Listen, it does not surprise me. I think you kind of in the situation you have to be fluid about things because obviously, you want to make sure you give teams time to sort of investigate and contact trace and do all that and sort of go through the proper protocols to make sure that they weed out cases so that guys don't unknowingly take the field and risk further spread of the virus, but also anything you can do to sort of at least somewhat keep a competitive balance. I know a competitive balance is, full competitive balance is nearly impossible this season and in this era. I get that. But if by moving a game back a day or two, if you can at least give a team a chance to, maybe get a day or two of preparation, because obviously, like I said, the Patriots are missed at least 2 days of field work due to the protocols. Protocol vocab, nice. Yeah, I'm chock full of them. Jeez.
Contact tracing.
Contact tracing. That's right. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Drop it. Some
protocol protocol vocab, man. You gotta have it.
Protocol vacuum.
Vocab.
No, just the way I think the way you almost said sounded different, but
almost
anyway,
doesn't count, buddy.
I know. Only in horseshoes and hand grenades, right?
Not hand grenades, but maybe horseshoes.
That's close. But anyway, before we go totally off the rails, which we seem to do a lot here on the Sports Blitz, I don't have a problem with it because I think that from a competitive balance point of view and just a contact tracing, I'll use that word again, point of view, I think it's necessary, and I'm actually, I'm surprised that they are holding the game so close to the original date. I mean, you look at some of the other cases again that we'll get into. You've had teams that have had games moved back, several weeks because of issues that they've had. So it doesn't. I don't have a problem with it, to be honest with you. I know. One of the Broncos players, Shelby Harris, who I have no idea who that is, he's a defensive lineman, apparently took to Twitter and expressed his disappointment in the NFL scheduling change for the game against the Pats. And apparently his quote was, "Why are we getting punished?" I don't really know how that's punishment per se.
Why is it him?
What?
Why is it him?
Yeah, why?
The Patriots have to play too.
I don't understand. Yeah, I don't understand how he and the Broncos are getting punished.
Shafted. They're getting shafted.
Basically, yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense because basically they would be the ones getting an unfair advantage if the game was played as originally scheduled. So I think he needs to sort of check his sort of tone.
Fact checker. Fact checker.
No, it's more to like check his tone deafness there at the door a little bit with a comment like that. But yeah, I don't have a problem with it. And I would say the same thing if the roles were reversed. I think following these protocols and sort of making these adjustments is important this season for a number of reasons.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But there's some skeptics out there. Tommy Curran,
apparently the defensive lineman for the Broncos.
Yeah, right, him too. But Tommy Curran, a couple other guys. Ben Volen is another guy who is just into that. If there's somebody that tests positive, why are we even playing? Because if we're playing, then there are probably other guys that may not have been tested positive yet.
Right.
And once you start playing another team, that's when you start.
It's a valid point.
More and more. It is a valid point.
It's a valid question to ask.
Yeah. So that's why I asked the question is because, and again, moving it to 5 o'clock on a Monday, I understand it's a holiday for some, but still, 5 o'clock. What kind of audience are you going to get? People that are off, yes, but people that are working on Monday, that's going to be a little tough for people to do. So, I mean, I understand it, I get it, but it's going to be a little rough for people, actually.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I don't know. I kind of have I understand why they're moving games. I get it. But on the flip side of it, I just think they still need to be careful. And I think they're trying to be, but
that's why I said it.
There's a flip side of it, though, Robbie.
Well,
flip side.
But that's why I said, if anything, I'm surprised they're not like taking these games and moving them back. I'm surprised. I think that's my surprise is the fact that they are comfortable moving these games back days and not weeks. Is basically what it comes down to, given what you just said, and given the legitimate questions posed by Curran and Volen and guys out there. I understand they're scheduling wise, it is difficult to to move too many games around, but a season like this, you have to sort of play health and safety, I feel like, over anything else. And
yeah, but you're also not talking about 10 teams. You're talking about one or two.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So if anything, if it sort of stays to this sort of small little group here, I mean, it shouldn't be that difficult to maybe rearrange some things and for various weeks. Maybe, I don't know, have the Broncos play somebody else this week and then move that game back a few weeks. There's ways to do it, I feel like.
There is, but again, we're going to talk about it in a few minutes. But there is another side to this NFL protocol thing, which is very, very interesting. Which I had the chance of hearing on the way home from work today on sports radio, just listening to some of the stuff that was going on and that kind of thing. But the protocols for the NFL players are kind of the same. I think they're a little bit different than the ones we have. Obviously, the mask wearing, obviously the distancing, or trying to keep distance. It's really hard when you're a quarterback to keep a distance from your center unless you're doing a shotgun. But trying to keep the players safe is, just like you said a few seconds ago, is I think the paramount, is the most important thing. But what do you think of I mean, have you heard some of the other protocols that they're doing? And again, the cameras and the watches that they're wearing to keep in touch with them and to keep that contact tracing going to find out where they are. Those kinds of things. What do you think about the protocols that they're using now?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'll be honest. I'm not as well in depth versed on what they're doing. Obviously, I know the masks and the distancing and stuff like that, and at the facilities and all of that. During the practice week, leading up to the game and things like that. So I don't want to. What I don't want to do is I don't want to sort of go too in depth to something that I'm not really familiar with. So, but from what I could tell, just sort of the basic protocols. I mean, it's basically what you would expect. Masks, distancing, daily testing. Things of that nature. And so, again, we'll get into how some of the protocols have kind of been flaunted by certain teams and people, and that may be having an effect on where we stand right now. But I think overall, it seems like the NFL and the players really worked hard to try to establish these protocols to sort of be able to come back to the field safely. But again, it's such a fluid situation that you already see. I mean, all these adaptations and sort of adjustments having to be made because of issues that have arisen from this sort of ongoing pandemic that we are in.
Right. No, it totally makes sense. Two more players today from the Tennessee Titans.
Yes.
Football team have tested positive. That equals 21 players. 21 players. That's a lot of players there.
That is a bad outbreak. You think, I mean, the Patriots, just a couple of guys, but the Tennessee, what has happened there has definitely been alarming on a number of different levels.
Well, it turns out that what was found out is that they were not following the protocols. They weren't enforcing the mask wearing in certain places. They were going to workout places that were not on specific lists.
Yeah.
They were going to private places where there was
even after the outbreak started, they were holding private. Basically, the story I saw is that they were holding groups of players were holding workouts together while the team was supposed to be, quarantining and contact tracing and staying away from each other when this outbreak was sort of in its early days on that team.
Yeah, and the fact is that they put everybody into a really bad position.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I think it's very disappointing that the Tennessee players have sort of put themselves into that position, put their team into that position. I think it is very alarming that they've had such a big outbreak on the Titans. I think the NFL has done their best to sort of minimize any sort of potential spread to other teams, and I think that I'm going to be very interested.
I'm going to disagree with that, but go ahead. There's a reason for me disagreeing, but go ahead. You tell your thing, and I'll tell you what I think.
Okay. Well, but the only other thing I was going to say is that it's going to be very interesting for me to see how the NFL has already kind of used them as a case in point to other teams to try to really reinforce the protocols and stuff like that. But what I'm very interested to see is sort of what discipline is going to come, if any, the Titans' way for the fact, of how they've sort of flaunted the protocols and now have caused such a big issue, not just team-wide, but league-wide as well. So I think it's going to be very interesting, something to watch as to, if and how the league goes about, imposing any sort of discipline on Tennessee for for their actions, that have unfortunately led to, some pretty serious consequences already.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. What's interesting is that I kind of secretly, Robbie, are going because the Patriots, who usually get caught doing something, whatever, and sometimes it's not right, and sometimes it's bogus, and sometimes it's just because we win, they just hate us.
And sometimes it's more probable than not.
Okay, sure. But we were actually
You didn't get the reference?
I did. About it. I was trying to.
Oh, come on, Doug.
So I think what it comes down to is that the Patriots were actually following the rules, which is great. And now other teams, so far it's been just one team specifically, but it's just like that the Patriots are like, oh, yep, they were following the rules. It's just something that happened, and they were definitely following the rules, and the Titans were not following the rules, and the Titans are probably going to be punished for it. And I'm just like, it's going to go finally. So I just think I don't know. It's not something to, you don't want anybody to get COVID, and you don't want anybody to get sick. And a lot of the players that have it have been asymptomatic and who have tested positive, which is really, really good. You don't want anybody to get sick. You certainly don't want that to happen. But I really do have an issue and finding out some information today about how the NFL is handling certain situations, and certain other situations they seem to be handling it fine. Obviously, the protocols that we just talked about is the things that they're doing: mask wearing and contact tracing. No, contact tracing. They're not tracing anybody's contract, and I wouldn't either. You would do that.
They're tracing it back to the table where it was signed.
Yes, and they're going back. They're actually taking a piece of tracing paper and actually going like this and tracing what they saw. No, never mind. Anyway, so doing that, doing the little watches that they wear, and the little they got the little things on their ankles or whatever it is to be able to watch and see where they go and make sure that they're not going somewhere they're not supposed to, and cameras and all this kind of stuff. And then there was a report, Robbie, that last week the Patriots had asked the NFL for a bigger locker room in Kansas City. The Kansas City locker room, the visiting locker room, is 1,000 square feet. 1,000 square feet. So we're talking about a very, very small room where you're supposed to social distance, where you're supposed to be not next to each other. Yeah, there may be some plexiglass or whatever they put up there, but 1,000 square feet? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's not.
Trace Winovich is 1,000 square feet just himself.
Yeah, there's not going to be a whole lot of social distancing going on that.
No, and guess what?
Space.
Guess what? The NFL, who you said is supposed to be so good with making sure our players are safe, denied it.
I didn't know that, so that's not.
I know, and the report just came out a few hours ago, and the fact is that they denied it. Why? They had plenty of time to go to not every stadium, but to call every stadium and say, first of all, these are what the protocols are going to be, and can we get a couple of locker rooms? You could go and do a prefab locker room that's large, that 50. You talk about 53 to 55 guys, plus anybody else that's in there.
Yeah.
So the trainers and, it's a lot of people.
Yeah.
You get this prefab thing, you put it on the outside of the stadium where they can walk right inside or whatever it is. You get the prefab, you put it inside the stadium if you have room. Then you got enough room for everybody. Not these small little locker rooms where you could spread the disease.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the big NFL being all, oh yeah, they're doing this, doing that, trying to keep players safe, but they're denying.
Yeah.
They're
That's not
I mean,
good.
the
Not
Patriots, Bill Belichick and the Patriots went to them and said, "This locker room's too damn small. How are we supposed to, Chase Winovich is like up against the next guy, and they're going like this. I mean, how can you know what 1,000 square feet is? It's not a lot of space.
No,
not for 53 guys, 55 guys.
Big guys at that.
These are big guys. These aren't, we're not talking, all the, they're on all Julian Edelman. And let me tell you, he's not a small guy.
Yeah.
Maybe in height, but not this way. So again, this is now just hearing this report, Robbie. And I know you had said this before without knowing, and that's why I mentioned it. And I didn't mention it because you didn't hear it because I didn't know. Didn't really talk about it on pregame. But what I wanted to find out from you is that moving forward, are we going to be more? Are we going to look at the NFL in a different way? Because I'll tell you, sports radio this afternoon was livid, absolutely livid. We're talking Glenn and Fourier, who used to play for the Pats. These guys were and a couple other guys, they were absolutely livid with the NFL. NFL touts, oh yeah, we're trying to keep our players safe. But when a team is asking for something that's going to keep them safe, and for the NFL to say, no, I'm sorry, you can't have that, how is that keeping the players safe?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And they had plenty of time, not just to watch the NHL. Obviously, the NHL was in a bubble because you can do that because it's not as many players, not as many coaches or trainers and stuff like that. The NBA, also the same situation as the NHL. You put them in a bubble, and the bubble's big enough where you can hold everybody in it. The NFL, you can't do that with, and I get that. I'm not asking for a bubble, but if they're
MLB, they're throwing guys all over the stadium. They're putting them in luxury boxes.
Yeah, exactly.
All over the place.
Exactly. But I think what I'm saying is that if a team is going to the NFL and saying, look, you know what, we don't feel comfortable going into this 1,000 square foot space, which is not going to give us enough room. We don't know what's going on. We know that you have the plexiglass up. We know that you sterilized it. We get that. But the fact is that we're supposed to, as a team rule, we're supposed to social distance. How can they do that in 1,000 square feet? They can't do that.
Yeah, no,
impossible.
Can't do that at all.
So what are your thoughts upon hearing this for the first time?
Very disappointed in the NFL. I think that just sort of goes counter to everything that they seem to be preaching, at least in the public's eye, about trying to protect player safety and health, and just to hear that they would deny something that, again, as you were saying, is sort of in lockstep with that, is, like I said, just very, very disappointing to hear, because it makes it seem like, well, do you really care that much about player safety? Because if you did, we wouldn't really be having this discussion now, would we? And so I think it's just, it really is kind of a disappointment to hear from the NFL. And I hope that maybe they'll take a second look at sort of going forward. I hope that they'll sort of take a second look and say, okay, how do we should make a smarter choice next time, and try to figure some things out, rather than now putting themselves in a position where sort of they're, what they've been preaching in terms of safety and stuff like that, sort of coming under fire because of this decision that they made, that seems to go directly encounter to said thoughts.
Yeah, the issue I have, Robbie, is that they had plenty of time to do this. They had plenty of time to look at the other teams, look at the other groups, see what they're doing. They have plenty of time to do prefab. They have plenty of time to go and say, hey, guess what? By the way, I think we should set this system up because obviously we're going to have 53 to 56 players or 53 to 55 players,
well, that's the thing.
Including the guys that are on reserve, including the guys that are traveling with the team, including the trainers and all that kind of stuff. They have plenty of time to put these prefabs together or put these locker rooms together. They have plenty of time to do it with everybody, and they didn't do it.
This should have been something. This should have been something done before the season started.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah, they have plenty of time to do it.
No, I agree with you completely. I mean, you should have. I don't understand how, as a league, you don't realize that hey, our locker room situation could be a bit tricky. We need to do something about this across the board. To sort of help keep our players safe and help our teams to be able to to socially distance and all that. So yeah, I mean, the fact that, especially hearing that story and really thinking about the fact that they did not do that is very disappointing and surprising. And
they're constantly touting player safety, but when it really comes down to it, I'm not sure if they really care. And this is why a lot of guys like Tommy Curran and Ben Volen are like, why don't they just, if somebody tests positive and there's a game coming up on a Sunday, first of all, you may get an advantage, just like KC got, because our best quarterback was out. That's the first thing.
True.
I understand how they have to. Oh, do they have to play these games? There's got to be a plan, Rob.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you a question here.
Yes.
Let me tell you something, and then I'll ask you a question. Let's do that first.
Okay.
There's got to be a plan. My opinion is there's got to be a plan to see if something like this happens, where there are teams where they have to postpone and then play again later on. There's got to be a plan. Maybe there isn't, but there's got to be a plan for the NFL to go to the end of February, maybe even early March, mid-March, and play the Super Bowl in that period of time.
Yeah.
There's got to be a plan. So if there's a plan to do that, why not postpone these games until later on? Plan. Yes, it's got to be a plan. Postpone these games to later on where there's an advantage to both teams. And maybe there won't be at that time. I don't know. But if there's always a disadvantage when two of your best players are out. When your starting quarterback is out.
How is the fact that you're now out of your facility for basically 3 or 4 days out of 5 on a game week? I mean, that's just a disadvantage in of itself.
Hey, Robbie, let's talk about that last weekend. Let's talk about the Patriots flying on the same day, which, by the way, is a rule from the NFL that you're not supposed to play on the same day you fly in. That's why they fly in 2 days before or 3 days before in some cases, depending on where you go. I think if it's like the West Coast, I think they fly in like maybe on a Thursday or Friday. Then you have 2 days to prepare.
Right.
They haven't been preparing, and everybody's saying, "Oh yeah, they have been." Well, they haven't. They haven't run. They haven't been doing it.
You can't
doing their exercises, but you cannot do this, and you can't fly in the day. How did they play that game, Robbie? That was incredible. Yeah. How did they play that game?
They were tired. As close as they did. They keep as close as they did.
They were tired. They were tired. They were nervous. They even went on 2 different planes, one going out of New Hampshire, the other going out of Boston. One was like a COVID plane. The other was not a COVID plane. And the fact is that they both flew in at pretty much the same time. They flew in that day. They had probably 6 hours to prepare. They were tired. How did they play? And they asked for a locker room that was bigger, and they didn't get it. How frustrating is that?
Yeah.
How did they even play that game?
Yeah.
That game should not have been played, period.
I know.
Because they're breaking all the NFL rules. They're breaking all the NFL their own protocol. Their own, like, oh, you're flying that day, you can't play. Okay, well, wait a minute. So what they're doing is they're forcing these games. I don't have a problem with you postponing it and playing it on a Tuesday night. I don't, or a Wednesday night. Don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is forcing the games, because that's going to be an unfair advantage to the team that's flying in. It doesn't matter what team it is.
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about the
100%.
I'm talking about it's an unfair advantage, and they shouldn't be doing it. I understand.
100%.
Oh, we gotta go with the season, and we're not gonna stop. Okay, that's fine. Don't stop. I don't have a problem with you not stopping. Just postpone the game so there's a fair advantage to both teams.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, you gotta it needs to make sense in terms of a competitive, at least somewhat of a competitive balance or a competitive advantage.
Yeah.
So to think, it has to make somewhat sense. I know, yeah, you're like me when I talk about about baseball.
About the Red Sox. I was getting all hot, man. Because they're contradicting themselves.
I know.
Themselves just to get these games in. You cannot do this. It's unfair. Robbie, I am so happy and so proud to, and maybe that's too much, but for the way they played, they had 6 hours to basically prepare for this game.
I was shocked that they kept
without their starting quarterback.
I was shocked that they kept it that close. You know,
I don't.
It was amazing. It was amazing.
I have no idea. How they did it. There was one thought that they were taking all their frustrations out on Kansas City, which would kind of make sense. That would make sense that they took all their frustrations out. But there was a lot of frustrating stuff that happened that day. And by the way, why do you think Bill was wearing 2 masks?
Oh yeah.
There was a reason he was doing that.
Oh yeah, he was sending a message.
Message sent, baby. Message sent.
By the way, I love Andy Reid and like the fact that he's sort of like elected to go this season with like the face shield. The face shield. It's quite
he actually should be wearing a mask too. Because the droplets can go under the mask.
Yeah, well, you see
under the shield.
You see how many
the shield just protects you. It doesn't protect other people.
You see how many NFL coaches so far this season have been fined and their teams have been fined because they haven't been wearing their mask properly. It's like, if you want a season, wear the damn mask. Wear the damn mask.
Well, Bill had 2 on, so he could share his.
Yeah.
No, he can't share his.
No, if you're an NFL coach and you want so badly, to coach the season, to have a full season, where like it like you're saying, it just does not make any sense. The thinking and the mindset of some of these NFL apparently higher ups, players and coaches. Like nobody is making a whole lot of sense in this situation.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. There was a coach firing this past week, Bill O'Brien from the Texans. Turns out there was a little bit of controversy there, not on his firing. I think he deserved to be fired, but there was a reason. Did you hear anything about that, Robbie, and what are your thoughts?
All I heard was that he was fired, so you'll have to enlighten me as to what the controversy was, because I did not read that much. I'll be honest, I did not read that much into the specifics.
No worries. There's a couple of reports out there that says that that Bill O'Brien had a very strict culture. I think Bill Belichick probably has a little bit of a strict culture in there.
Yeah.
But is also very stern and was really having a lot of fights and arguments with his players. And one of them just happened to be J.J. Watt. And that, I think, was the icing on the cake, I believe. That fight happened, I believe it happened 24 to 48 hours before he got fired.
Wow.
And there's still reports that are coming out about what kind of particular coach he was and how he did things. And, we've we've had a couple of coaches on our show, the Sports Blitz, and talking about how they do things and how they treat players and that kind of thing. And the fact is that I understand that you could be old school and you could be, have that strict culture and maybe be stern to some people. And I'm sure Bill Belichick does the same thing. But you also got to give him some positive too. You got to give him, way to go and good job and, keep that up. You're doing great, blah, blah, blah. You got to keep, even the hardest to coach, will say things like that. I'm not sure. I think part of it was the losing record, but I think part of it was the fact that the players really kind of revolted a little bit against him. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I mean, I'm not surprised because the Texans certainly were having their fair share of struggles this season. I think, they definitely have underperformed expectations, over the last couple of seasons at least. To hear the J.J. Watt news is surprising in the sense that J.J. Watt, seems like a very sort of mild-mannered guy. He seems like a very sort of, upbeat personality. So to hear sort of him, coming to odds or, worse with his head coach definitely shows you that there's something to that behind the scenes. Because, it just it seems sort of out of character for JJ Watt to have that kind of issue, especially with the coach. I'm not surprised. I mean, when I first heard it, I was a little bit surprised. Like, it did come a little bit, to me at least, out of nowhere. But at the same time, when you really think about it, it's not. You could definitely foresee something like that happening. I just was surprised they did, during the season, but especially from what you're telling me, with the Watt situation and all that, definitely makes sense. And, it's interesting because now the interim coach is another Belichick disciple in Romeo Crennel, who has kind of, been all around the NFL since leaving the Patriots. But, I think that, it was interesting, to say the least. It'll be interesting to see where the Texans, who were a playoff team, by the way, last year, where they sort of go from here now in the post Bill O'Brien era.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. The other part of it, I think, is the fact that he was coach and GM. And I don't know if you've noticed, Robbie, but he's been gutting the team.
Yeah,
DeAndre Hopkins
yeah.
was one that was like, why did he just do that? I mean, that didn't make any sense whatsoever. So I think that was at least part of it. Plus the strictness, plus the maybe the sternness, and plus the infighting with him and his players. Yeah, it should be interesting to see. I think Romeo is, we've obviously had him, and he obviously is, a different kind of coach, and we'll have to see if they can turn things around. I just thought I'd mention that because it was something that kind of came out, and the stories are still coming out now.
Right.
They're still coming out as of today, of stuff that he has that he's done. So I'm sure we'll find out. More in the coming days. There'll probably be a book, or somebody write a book about it. J.J. Watt probably get a book deal, just to talk about Bill O'Brien is coaching. Already talking about. Do you know there's a rumor? There's a rumor that says that you won't believe it if I told you, but maybe you would. That McDaniels is going to leave and Bill O'Brien's going to come in and take his position. McDaniels is going to leave to coach. Maybe one of these teams, maybe the Broncos, or maybe not the Broncos. They've done that before. Maybe New York Jets.
Interesting.
Anyway, I don't think that's going to happen, but it's too early for that anyway. But hey, listen, I wanted to throw this out to you. I have, and I'm going to admit freely, I have not been paying attention to the Major League Baseball playoffs. I have not been paying attention. I kind of know who's going and who's doing what. But you know what? I'm just going to throw it over to you for an update on the MLB.
Yes. So the MLB playoffs, obviously, taking place right now. We are in the divisional series round of both the AL and NL. Two teams have already secured their berths, actually just today in the championship series round. The Atlanta Braves finished off a 3-game sweep of the Miami Marlins and the Tomahawk Chop. Oh, okay.
That's very controversial.
You started it.
Are we not supposed to do that?
I don't know. The views of the sports bloods do not necessarily reflect the views of other people. I don't know.
Right. Just remember the NFL team in Washington is not called that name.
Yeah, the Washington football team. But yeah, so the Braves are moving on, and actually they handed the Marlins their first ever playoff series loss as a franchise.
Gonna get me a Marlin.
Okay.
Sorry, I had to do that.
Yeah, all the other years the Marlins have made the playoffs, they have won the World Series, 1997 and 2003. And then the other team, unfortunately, that earned a trip to the ALCS today was the Houston Astros, who, no matter how much you think that they're down,
cheating?
Who knows? No matter how much you think that they're down, and the fact that they had a losing record at the end of the regular season, still got into the playoffs, and now
the Marlins weren't playing that well either, were they? I don't think
they were playing better than the Astros.
Oh yeah, that's true. Not much better, but better.
But the Astros now had a 2-game sweep over the Twins, and now defeated the Oakland A's 3-1 again to earn themselves a spot in the ALCS. They will be facing the winner of the Yankee and Ray series, which game 4 currently going on. Tampa with a 2-1 lead in the series, but the Yankees currently with a 4-1 lead in game 4 of that series, and so potential for a game 5 tomorrow night in that series. And then in the other NL series, the Dodgers, good old Mookie Betts and David Price Dodgers, looking to finish off a sweep against the San Diego Padres. Game 3 of that series going on as we speak as well. And the interesting thing about the MLB playoffs is the way they structured it, as in terms of host ballparks. The first round was held in the higher seeds ballpark, kind of like it normally would be. However, what they did is they sort of made their own little mini bubbles for the remaining rounds, and they have the NL series going on in 2 AL parks, Houston and the Rangers' new stadium, whereas the NL series, the AL series are taking place in the NL parks, San Diego and Los Angeles. So definitely trying to minimize travel and sort of contact issues and whatnot, that sort of by setting up sort of these makeshift bubbles for the remaining rounds. I know I think the ALCS is going to be held in San Diego, and the NLCS is going to be held in Houston, and the World Series is going to be held at the Rangers stadiums or something like that. I forget exactly what.
That's a great idea, though.
I forget exactly what it says. Yeah, no, it definitely definitely was well thought out by the MLB. It's interesting. We talk about the issues the NFL is having. Yeah, there was a lot of talk the first week of MLB season that MLB might not get through a third of their full 60-game season, let alone now having gone through a full season and now looking like they will complete.
Too at the beginning.
They will complete the Marlins. I mean, we were talking about the Marlins, and their playoff, their playoff run, they were the first team that really right out of the gate had a pretty bad outbreak there and had to move some games around, but they got done, to quote Larry the Cable Guy, get her done. They did get her done. I think you're cringing enough for both of us.
No, that's fine. I know who he is, and I've seen him, so yeah.
But anyway, so MLB playoffs chugging along. There actually are going to be fans at the Championship Series and the World Series. There's going to be a small capacity of fans. Actually, Doug, if you don't mind, I want to go back to the NFL for a split second because I had I don't know if you heard this news, but I wanted to get your reaction. The Florida governor, good old Governor Ron DeSantis.
I heard about this.
Gave the okay for the Miami Dolphins, at least. I'm not sure if this was for just the Dolphins or for all the Florida teams. They're just the Dolphins they were talking
Dolphins about. At first, yes.
For going forward, have full capacity.
They're not going to do it.
No, well, that's why I was going to say. I wanted to sort of get your reaction sort of twofold here, if you don't mind. So your reaction to, first of all, the governor of Florida's office's decision to allow that, but second of all, the Dolphins' decision to sort of stick with the limited capacity, at least for the time being, that they have been using so far.
My reaction is that the governor of Florida is crazy as a loon, and I think that
I mean, that goes without saying, but I don't think.
I'm sorry, but he's crazy, and I understand. He believes in certain things, and I get it. But that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. That's the first thing, and the second thing is that I believe that the Dolphins are doing the right thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Because of the fact that they've already seen that there's a huge outbreak with the Titans. They've seen a couple of guys on the Patriots, and there's a couple of guys from, I think it was one guy from the Raiders. I think it was on a practice squad. But it's one of those things where
just Florida in general. It's not really doing that hot with their own COVID numbers, just in general.
It just takes one. It just takes one. Not following the protocols to be able to get into some serious trouble. So I think the Dolphins are doing absolutely the right thing.
Yeah.
And they have the right to do what they want to do. It's their stadium, and the governor does not have any jurisdiction. No jurisdiction over the NFL or the Miami Dolphins. So I think the Dolphins are doing the right thing.
Yeah, and just quickly, any sort of thoughts on the I know you haven't really been following, but any thoughts at all on the MLB playoffs at all from your end?
Yeah, just one thought. Just one thought. Just
Doug, wake up.
What? Oh, I'm sorry. What were we talking about?
I think you pretty much gave your response.
No. Listen. I'll probably end up watching the World Series, just because it'll be a big game, and I like the World Series.
I don't really care who wins. Action, as long as it's not the.
I don't care who wins either. I don't care.
Excuse me,
drop my paper. But I don't really care who wins. But
as long as it's not the Yankees.
No, definitely
not.
No Yankees. No Yankees. And if it is the Yankees, I'm watching. I'm not going to watch it. No way. And one of my very good friends is in New York, and he's a Yankee fan, so it's all good. It's all good. But yeah. So we move. I mean, the thoughts are my thoughts on MLB is that MLB has been doing it the right way.
Yeah,
absolutely been doing it the right way, keeping their players safe, making sure there's protocols in place, and
they've done a
canceling
good
games
job.
or postponing games. They're doing a great
They've
job.
done a good
Great job. So that's really beyond the actual play on the field. I think they're doing.
They've done a good job. It started out very shaky.
Considering
overall,
it did start off really shaky, and everybody was like, "Oh, you got to cancel the season," and they were like, "No, let's just push through a little bit, but let's keep those, everybody safe." And
no, they did. They've done a good job. They've done a good job of it.
Definitely. And last but not least, our buddy, friend of the Sports Blitz, LeBron James, is one game away. I knew you were going to look at me like, what? Is one game away from winning his...
we have to talk about this. We could just gloss right on by it. We could gloss right on by it.
We should have. We definitely could have. But, yes, one game away from another NBA title. I'm just hoping Jimmy has another great game. We just keep this series going. They play tomorrow night, and we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where if LeBron's going to get a lot of accolade for this, I don't think he is. And actually, you want to know the truth, Robbie? I'm supposed to say no, Doug, lie to me.
Oh, yeah.
If you really want to know the truth, I know you like it when I lie. Really want to know the truth? I think personally that AD, the other guy, the other stuff.
Big
I think that he's MVP.
Yeah.
He has played incredible in these playoffs. And as far as I'm concerned, LeBron he may win a championship, but I don't think he deserves to get the MVP. And if he gets it, there's something wrong if he gets it. I'm telling you right now.
Rigged. If he gets it, it's rigged.
Oh, it's horrible. He paid somebody off.
Here's my thing. And again, this is going to be, obviously this is somewhat of a controversial, not controversial or bad, but sort of people have different opinions. I get that. But I don't care if LeBron necessarily wins the title, because even if he wins this title, I still do not think that puts him above Michael Jordan for greatest of all time. That's just my personal opinion.
No.
Again, people can, sort of take, and I've said this all along, is that, I do look at the body of work, don't get me wrong, but the big thing that I look at for greatest of all time.
LeBron's body? Sorry.
But the thing that I look at the most is, how did you perform in the biggest games? And the stat that just I cannot get away from at this point is that Michael Jordan never lost a final series. And LeBron, even if he wins this year, still has a losing record in final series. And so and that for a number, and there's other reasons too, don't get me wrong, it's not just that, but for me, and maybe part of it is the fact that how weird this NBA season was, and the fact that, you could make the argument the Lakers kind of had an easier road due to some things that happened in previous rounds, but I'm not gonna put, no matter what happens, I'm saying this right now, you can cut the tape on this, is that
cut the tape, boys.
Yeah, I am not, no matter if LeBron finishes off the series or not, I am not putting him above Michael Jordan still, even if with this added title, assuming he finishes it off. So.
I agree with you. Michael Jordan was also a different kind of player. I think he was the greatest all-around player. Great defense, great offense.
He didn't quit. Kind of player. He did not quit, too. And sometimes
and he stayed with the same team for the longest time, even if there were issues, and there were. And I'll tell you, anybody that's got Netflix out there, and I'm watching it, this is probably my 6th or 7th time watching this thing. You gotta watch the Michael Jordan You have to watch the documentary on Michael Jordan. It's phenomenal. The access that these guys had in the 90s was almost 24/7 access to Michael Jordan, and they followed him around everywhere. And it's great. It does skip. It skips a little bit, but you guys, I think you'll enjoy it. It goes from like 1998, and then it goes back to 92, or it goes back to 89 or whatever. So it goes back and forth. But you like that because there's a little bit of contrast there, so you're not just talking about him as a little kid and whatever. They have the coach that cut him as a junior for the varsity. His coach cut Michael Jordan as a junior, trying out for the varsity team. He made the team, and he played his first game or whatever, and he wasn't really that good. He told him to go practice, and he cut Michael Jordan, and he's feeling real happy about it now, I'm sure. But he was on the documentary. But documentary's phenomenal. The access and that kind of thing. You want to see a great sports documentary? This one is definitely. It is 10 episodes, so be prepared for that. But it's phenomenal, and this will give you a great idea and a really. It'll sink into your head. You'll be like, oh yeah, now after you're done with the documentary, you'll be like, yeah, that makes sense. He's like the best player in the world and always will be. So, and let me tell you, I couldn't stand him.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Celtics fan. I'm Larry Bird and Dennis Johnson and Kevin McHale, and they're not walking through that door, but because they'll be old and gray. But I'm a Celtics fan. So I didn't like Michael Jordan when he came in, but as Larry was leaving, Michael was coming in.
Right.
So you have Michael, you have Larry Bird and Magic Johnson finishing up their careers, and as they were finishing up, Michael Jordan was just coming in, just making the playoffs, and just coming in around that time. Perfect transition to him, but. Again, I agree absolutely 100% with you. Just because he wins this one does not put him in any way, shape, or form near Michael Jordan, as far as I'm
concerned. Right. Yep. Absolutely. I mean, not much more left to say on that. I just
no, it's not at all. So we'll just we'll just have to see. I'd love to see Jimmy come out and have a great game with Miami again tomorrow and just keep this going. Because that's just going to piss off LeBron, and anything that can piss him off.
Exactly.
Yeah, good enough for me.
Yeah.
But we're at the time of the show where we always do our final thought. So, Robbie, I will throw it over to you.
Thank you.
For a final thought of the evening.
Yes. So actually, this is not necessarily going to be sports related, but one of our.
Give me a Marlin.
I still don't get the reference, by the way. I don't get the reference.
From Austin Powers. Austin Powers.
Okay. Well, it's funny that you bring up movie references because so for my final thought tonight, obviously we've had some very, very special guests on the show so far, and one who has had the most appearances so far on the Sports Blitz has been our buddy Kyle, and Kyle just celebrated a birthday yesterday. The 31 years old.
Hey, old man! Happy birthday! I'm sorry.
Look who's talking. But
I ain't old.
You're older.
Not older. I'm younger. 29 times 2.
Exactly. Great
that's not 29 times 2. That's too old.
Yeah, I know. I knew that wasn't.
Oh man.
But I wanted to send this partially because I didn't really have any other final thoughts. But no, regardless, I wanted to
plan for that final thought, Robbie.
Yeah. I wanted to send a shout out to Kyle and wish him a very happy 31st birthday. I hope you had a great day, and he's for those of you who don't know, and you wouldn't know if you haven't watched On a Couch Talking Sports.
Shameless plug.
Which you
Shameless
should.
plug.
And also,
Sorry,
Kyle is sort of recovering from a little bike accident that he suffered a couple weeks back.
You okay?
Yeah, he's fine. He just it's nature's great equalizer, bike versus car. So he's okay. Could have been a lot worse, and so he is doing much better. And so we wish him well in his recovery, and also wish him a very happy birthday. And go watch On a Couch Talking Sports. Doug's been on it. It's a good show. And
But when to be on it again, but that's all right.
You were just on like a month ago, so 2 months ago. So
try again.
It was.
It's all right. I'm just joking.
I know.
I'm just joking.
I know you are. You have been on most of any guests that we've had on, so.
I have. I feel very good about that.
Yeah. So no, I just wanted to say, happy birthday to Kyle, and continue to get better, and here's to another great year. Hopefully, much better in the world than the overall 30th year was. But yeah, I know what a time to have a birthday. But yeah, so that's my final thought for this evening. So Doug, I will turn it back over to you. What is your what is your final thought for episode 58?
My final thought. Gotta get it moving. Oh my God, what was that? Okay, let me speak again. Let me try this one more time. Take two. Okay. Wait, take two. My final thought for episode 58 of the Sports Blitz is two. One is happy birthday, Kyle. Yes, you are old. Get your ass off the bicycle. Get in a car. I don't know what you're doing. I hope you feel better. I didn't know this happened. I do hope you feel better. I wish you many more birthdays, many more successes, and hopefully we'll talk to you very soon. Yeah. I do wish you, to obviously feel better. My other news is a little sad rock and roll news.
Oh yes.
In the last 24 hours. Yesterday, one of the greatest guitarists of all time, as far as I'm concerned. I know there's other guys, and we could list them, but we're not going to. But Eddie Van Halen unfortunately succumbed to cancer. He has had cancer for 10 years. Yeah. He has mostly beat it. But yesterday he succumbed to it, and pretty young guy too. But I would just implore you to go to YouTube, to go and listen to his riffs on the guitar. They are phenomenal. Yeah. They are incredible. Oh, yeah.
Legendary guitarist, legendary band, Van Halen.
Married, first marriage to Valerie Bertinelli, who was one of my favorites. On One Day at a Time, a TV show in the '80s. Just you gotta just go listen. It's just unbelievable what he did, and what's more incredible is that he can't read music. That's the most incredible thing. The only time somebody found out is when he was actually taking music lessons. It was 5 years in. He still couldn't read music. And the guy who was teaching him was playing piano and wanted him to change, turn the page. And so the guy was playing the piano, and he turned to Eddie and said, "How come you haven't changed the page yet?" He said, "Because I can't read music." 5 years into less.
Wow.
Unbelievable that this guy did not know how to read.
Incredible.
And he just played the way he played, which was incredible. He will definitely be missed. The Sports Blitz and family wishes his family condolences and
rest in
peace.
And
rest in peace, please. And
absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. But that's it. That's all we got for this week.
All we got.
Thanks, Robbie, very much. Had fun tonight.
Always a good time. Yes.
We are on. Yeah, always a good time. We are on. We're going to name all the stuff that we're on here. We're on Twitter. We're on YouTube. We're on SoundCloud. We're on Facebook. What else are we on?
That's it for right now.
That's it for right now. We're moving in the right direction to be able to be on some other formats so you can listen to us.
But definitely give us a listen and a watch right now.
Yeah, give us a listen and watch
right now.
We're going to throw it out there to you. And hey, listen, this is our 58th episode. Next week, we'll have more stuff for you. We'll have some special guests, hopefully down the road too.
Yeah.
And hey, I'm Doug. That's Robbie. Actually, he's over there. That's Robbie. For the Sports
Doug's over here.
Yeah. The Robbie's, no, that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. For Doug and Robbie for the Sports Blitz, thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.
See you, everybody.